Please don't touch me! I'm pregnant!
You were parked illegally. I told you to move.
Jake's pregnant wife called him crying, saying the HOA president had pulled her out of their car and she had fallen on her stomach. She noticed there was blood. Jake was stuck in traffic 40 minutes away, afraid for both his wife and unborn daughter. But his brother, a Navy SEAL captain, was only 10 minutes away. He arrived first. Once he saw what Karen had done, the situation shifted. Before we dive into this story, drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from, and please hit that like button and subscribe, because we bring you true stories every week. Merry Christmas to all our viewers. This season reminds us that protecting family is everything, and sometimes justice arrives in the most unexpected ways. The rain hammered down in relentless sheets that Thursday afternoon as Jake sat trapped in bumper-to-bumper traffic, watching helplessly as his phone lit up again and again with frantic calls from his wife Emma. His hands gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled intensity as he tried desperately to stay calm, but his heart was absolutely pounding out of his chest. Emma was 7 months pregnant with their first child, baby girl they'd already named Lily. The pregnancy had been extremely difficult from the very start. Emma had been placed on partial bed rest after experiencing several frightening complications, and her doctor had made it crystal clear that any stress or physical strain could be catastrophically dangerous for both mother and baby. When Jake finally answered Emma's 5th desperate call, he heard something that made his blood turn to ice in his veins. "Jake, please, please, come home." Emma sobbed into the phone, her voice completely broken and terrified in a way he'd never heard before. "She pulled me out of the car. I fell on my stomach. Jake, I'm bleeding. There's so much blood." "What? Who? Emma, what happened?" Jake shouted into the phone, already swerving across lanes to get off the highway as fast as humanly possible. "Karen Patterson from the HOA," Emma cried, her words tumbling out between sobs. "She said I parked wrong. She grabbed my arm and pulled me right out of the car. I tried to tell her I was pregnant, but she wouldn't listen. Jake, I'm so scared. What if something's wrong with Lily? I'm calling 911 right now," Jake said, his own voice shaking with absolute rage and terror. "Stay on the line with me, baby. Don't move at all. Help is coming." Jake immediately called 911 on his other phone, urgently reporting an assault on his pregnant wife. Then he made another call to the one person he knew could get there faster than anyone else in the world. His older brother, Marcus. Marcus was a Navy SEAL captain, home on leave for just 2 weeks. He'd been staying at a hotel only 10 minutes from Jake and Emma's house. When Jake told him what had happened, Marcus didn't waste time asking questions. "I'm already in my car," Marcus said, his voice deadly calm with that tone Jake recognized from his military training. "I'll be there in 5 minutes. Less." What Karen, the HOA president, doesn't know is that she just made the biggest mistake of her entire life. A Navy SEAL is about to arrive at the scene, and what he discovers is going to change everything. Stay with me, gets absolutely intense. To understand how things reached this devastating point, we need to go back exactly 3 months. Jake and Emma had just purchased their first house in Riverside Gardens, a beautiful, middle-class neighborhood with tree-lined streets and friendly neighbors, or so they thought when they signed the papers. The homeowners association was run by a woman named Karen Patterson. She was 62 years old, recently divorced, and had apparently decided that controlling every single aspect of the neighborhood was her brand new purpose in life. Within their first week of moving in, Jake and Emma received their first violation notice. Their garbage bins were visible from the street on a non-collection day. Fine, $50. The very next week, Emma had placed a small welcome mat outside their front door, a cheerful mat decorated with bright sunflowers. Violation, unauthorized door decoration. Fine, $75. Then came the absurd mailbox incident. The previous owners had painted it a nice shade of blue. Karen demanded it be repainted black to match what she called neighborhood standards. When Jake pointed out that 3 other houses on their street had different colored mailboxes, Karen coldly informed him that those were grandfathered in. Fine, $100, plus they had exactly 5 days to repaint it. Every single week brought yet another violation notice. Their lawn was supposedly half an inch too long. Jake's car was parked 6 inches over the driveway edge. A delivery package sat on their porch for 3 hours, which Karen classified as visual clutter. Jake tried his absolute best to be patient. He paid the ridiculous fines. He followed every petty rule. But Emma was getting increasingly stressed out, and stress was literally the last thing she needed in her delicate condition. 2 weeks before the incident that changed everything, Jake finally confronted Karen at an HOA meeting, speaking as calmly as he could manage. "Karen, my wife is having an extremely high-risk pregnancy. These constant violation notices and fines are causing her tremendous stress. Could we please have some understanding during this critical time?" Karen looked at him over her reading glasses with cold, dead eyes that showed absolutely no compassion whatsoever. "The rules apply to everyone equally, Mr. Morrison. No exceptions. If you can't follow simple guidelines, perhaps this neighborhood isn't right for your family. We are following the rules," Jake said, feeling his anger rising despite his best efforts. "But some of these violations are absolutely ridiculous. Last week, you fined us because our front door was open while we were unloading groceries. That's not even in the HOA bylaws. I determine what violates neighborhood standards," Karen snapped, her voice dripping with arrogance. "That's my job as HOA president. If you have a problem with that, you can take it up at the next board meeting. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have actual important homeowners to attend to." She turned her back on him dismissively, treating him like he was absolutely nothing. Jake should have known right then that things were going to get infinitely worse. That fateful Thursday, Emma had a crucial doctor's appointment. The appointment ran extremely late, and by the time she finally got home, she was exhausted, uncomfortable, and emotionally drained. The doctor had found some deeply concerning signs during the examination and wanted to see Emma again in just 2 days. Emma was worried sick and completely exhausted. She just desperately wanted to get inside her house and rest. Their driveway was narrow, and with Jake's car already parked there from that morning, Emma carefully pulled into the street parking spot directly in front of their house. She parked slightly crooked one tire, just barely over the line, into the next spot because she was having difficulty with the steering in her condition. Emma planned to ask Jake to repark it when he got home in an hour. She just needed to get inside and lie down immediately. But Karen saw the car from her house directly across the street, according to their neighbor's doorbell camera footage, which became absolutely crucial evidence later. Karen marched across the street with her phone already out and recording. She walked around Emma's car like a predator circling prey, documenting the parking violation from multiple aggressive angles. Then she pounded hard on Jake and Emma's front door. Emma, who had just finally sat down with her swollen feet elevated, struggled painfully to get back up. By the time she opened the door, Karen was red-faced and radiating fury. "Your car is parked illegally," Karen announced, holding up her phone like a weapon. "You're over the line, and you're blocking access to the adjacent space. That's a $200 fine, and you need to move it immediately." "Karen, I'm so sorry," Emma said, her voice exhausted and pleading. "I just got back from the doctor. I'm not feeling well at all. My husband will be home in about an hour, and he can move it then." "No, you'll move it right now, or I'll have it towed," Karen said coldly. "Please," Emma begged, and you could hear the desperation breaking through. "I'm 7 months pregnant, and I've been having serious complications. I just need to rest. 1 hour won't hurt anyone." "I don't care if you're 9 months pregnant," Karen said with shocking cruelty. "The rules are the rules. Move your car now, or face the consequences." Emma felt tears welling up in her eyes. The pregnancy hormones, the stress, the fear about what the doctor had said, all of it was completely overwhelming her. "I'm not feeling well enough to drive right now," Emma said, her voice breaking apart. "Please, just give me 1 hour. That's all I'm asking." That's when Karen made the worst decision of her entire life. What happens next is so shocking, so unbelievably cruel, that it's going to make your blood boil. And when the Navy SEAL brother arrives and sees what Karen has done, justice is about to be served in the most devastating way possible. Keep watching. If you won't move it, I'll move it myself, Karen snarled, reaching aggressively for Emma's purse where she'd seen Emma place her car keys when answering the door. Emma instinctively pulled back, trying to close the door for protection. You can't take my keys. That's theft. Karen pushed the door open, hard surprisingly strong for a woman her age. She grabbed Emma's purse and pulled violently. Emma held on desperately, terrified and confused about what was actually happening. The struggle lasted only a few chaotic seconds before Karen grabbed Emma's arm with her other hand and yanked with brutal force. Emma stumbled forward, completely off balance with her pregnant belly throwing off her center of gravity. She tried desperately to catch herself on the doorframe but missed entirely, and then she was falling. Emma landed hard on her side on the unforgiving concrete porch, instinctively twisting at the last second to protect her stomach. But the impact was still absolutely severe and devastating. Karen stood there for a long moment, shocked at what she'd just done. Then, instead of helping, instead of apologizing, instead of showing even a shred of human decency, she said something absolutely chilling. This wouldn't have happened if you'd just followed the rules. And she calmly walked away. Their neighbor, Mr. Chen, elderly retired teacher, who'd witnessed the entire horrific incident, rushed over immediately to help Emma. He called out desperately to Karen, begging her to come back, telling her that Emma was seriously hurt. Karen completely ignored him and went back into her house, closing the door behind her. That's when Emma noticed the blood spreading across her clothing, and that's when she made that desperate, terrified phone call to Jake. Marcus pulled up to Jake and Emma's house exactly 6 minutes after Jake's frantic phone call. He was still in civilian clothes, jeans, and a dark t-shirt, but there was something unmistakably powerful in the way he carried himself that made it instantly clear he was military. Maybe it was the way he moved, quick, purposeful, and completely controlled. Or maybe it was the look in his eyes, alert and assessing absolutely everything in microseconds. Mr. Chen was sitting on the porch with Emma, holding a towel against her to help stop the bleeding. When Marcus jumped out of his truck, Emma sobbed with overwhelming relief. "Marcus, thank God you're here," she cried out. "I've got you, Emma," Marcus said, his voice gentle in a way that most people never heard from a Navy SEAL. He knelt beside her immediately, checking her over with the extensive medical training all SEALs receive. "Ambulance is 2 minutes out. Where does it hurt most?" "My side. My stomach," Emma whispered, her voice weak with pain and terror. "Marcus, what if something's wrong with Lily? What if I lose her?" "The paramedics are going to check everything thoroughly," Marcus assured her with calm confidence. "You're going to be okay. Both of you are going to be okay." Then he looked up at Mr. Chen with sharp, focused eyes. "You witnessed what happened?" Mr. Chen nodded, his elderly face pale with shock. "That woman Karen Patterson, she pulled Emma right out of the doorway. Emma fell so hard. I saw everything. I have it all on my doorbell camera." Marcus's jaw tightened dangerously, but his voice stayed perfectly calm and controlled. "Can you send that footage to Jake's phone immediately? And I'm going to need you to give a complete statement to the police." "Of course," Mr. Chen said without hesitation. "Anything to help." The ambulance arrived within minutes, and the paramedics quickly assessed Emma's condition. They confirmed she was bleeding internally and needed to get to the hospital immediately to check on the baby's condition. Marcus helped them get Emma safely onto the stretcher, then turned to Mr. Chen with that deadly calm voice. "Which house is Karen Patterson's?" Mr. Chen pointed across the street to a large colonial-style house with an obsessively manicured lawn. "That one." Marcus nodded once. "Stay here and wait for the police. I'll be right back." "Marcus, be careful," Mr. Chen warned. "That woman is absolutely vindictive." Marcus just smiled, but there wasn't even a trace of warmth in it. "I'm counting on it." Marcus walked across the street with measured, purposeful steps and rang Karen Patterson's doorbell. When she opened the door, she looked supremely annoyed. "Yes, what do you want, Karen Patterson?" Marcus asked, his voice taking on that military formal tone. Yes. Who are you? I'm Captain Marcus Morrison, United States Navy SEALs. I'm Emma Morrison's brother-in-law. He paused, letting that sink in. You just violently assaulted my pregnant sister-in-law. She's on her way to the hospital right now. Karen's face went through several rapid expressions: surprise, defensiveness, and then shocking anger. I did no such thing, she snapped. She fell because she was clumsy. That's not my fault at all. You grabbed her and pulled her out of her house, causing her to fall hard on concrete, Marcus said, his voice dangerously quiet. That's assault. The police are on their way right now, and there's video evidence of everything you did. Karen's eyes widened slightly, but she recovered quickly with practiced arrogance. I was simply enforcing HOA rules. As president, I have full authority to take necessary action when residents refuse to comply. You have the authority to assault pregnant women, Marcus asked, his tone like ice. I didn't assault anyone, Karen insisted with shocking conviction. She's obviously exaggerating to get out of her parking fine. I know exactly how these things work. People always try to play the victim to avoid consequences. Marcus took a deep, controlled breath, fighting to keep his composure. Ma'am, you put a pregnant woman and her unborn child in serious danger. Do you understand the gravity of what you've done? What I understand, Karen said with contempt dripping from every word, is that I have a neighborhood to run, and people like your brother and his wife think they're special and don't have to follow the rules. Well, they're not special. The rules apply to everyone, even when following those rules could kill someone. Marcus asked quietly. Karen crossed her arms defensively. Don't be dramatic. She's fine. If she really cared about her pregnancy, she would have just moved her car as I asked. At that exact moment, Jake pulled up in his car, having driven like an absolute madman to get home. He jumped out and ran over. Where's Emma? Jake asked Marcus desperately. Ambulance took her to St. Mary's Hospital, Marcus said calmly. Mr. Chen is waiting to give his statement to the police. Jake turned to look at Karen, and all the rage and fear he'd been feeling came flooding to the surface. He started, but Marcus put a firm hand on his shoulder. Don't, Marcus said quietly. Let the law handle it. Karen actually smirked. Yes, Mr. Morrison. Let the law handle it. And when they do, they'll see that I was simply doing my job. In fact, your wife still owes a $200 parking fine. Plus, now there's an additional fine for creating a disturbance in the neighborhood. Jake lunged forward, but Marcus held him back with the strength of years of combat training. Jake, think about Emma, Marcus said firmly. She needs you at the hospital right now. This woman isn't worth it. He was absolutely right. Jake took a shaky breath and nodded. Go, Marcus said. I'll wait for the police and make sure they get everything they need. Jake started to turn away, but then looked back at Karen one last time. If anything happens to my wife or my baby, Jake said, his voice breaking with emotion, there's no rule, no law, no authority that will protect you from me. Karen rolled her eyes with shocking arrogance. Is that a threat? Because I can report that. It's a promise, Jake said. Then he ran to his car. Jake is racing to the hospital, where doctors are about to deliver devastating news about his wife and baby. Meanwhile, the police are arriving, and what they discover on that doorbell camera is going to destroy Karen's entire life. This is where justice begins. The drive to St. Mary's Hospital took 20 agonizing minutes that felt like hours. Jake's mind raced with terrifying worst-case scenarios. What if Emma were seriously injured? What if something was catastrophically wrong with Lily? What if he lost them both? When Jake burst through the emergency room doors, he was told Emma had already been taken up to the maternity ward for urgent evaluation. A nurse directed him to the 3rd floor, and he took the stairs 3 at a time, his heart pounding. He found Emma in a private room, hooked up to a fetal monitor. She was crying softly, and when she saw Jake, she reached out desperately. Jake, she sobbed, and he was at her side instantly, holding her hand. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. What did the doctor say? They're monitoring Lily's heartbeat, Emma said, her voice shaking uncontrollably. They did an ultrasound, and there's bleeding, but they can't tell yet if it's serious. The doctor said the next few hours are absolutely critical. If the bleeding doesn't stop, or if Lily shows signs of distress, ... double quotes. She couldn't finish the sentence. Jake kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her hands. You're both going to be fine. You're strong, and Lily is strong. We're going to get through this together. A doctor came in shortly after Dr. Sarah Martinez, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, who specialized in high-risky pregnancies. Mr. Morrison, she said, shaking his hand, your wife has experienced what we call a placental abruption. The placenta has partially separated from the uterine wall, which is causing the bleeding. Right now, it's a small separation, but we need to monitor it extremely closely. What does that mean? Jake asked, his heart sinking. It means Emma needs complete bed rest, no movement, no stress, nothing that could make the separation worse. If it progresses, we may need to deliver the baby early, via emergency C-section. At 7 months, the baby would have a good chance, but obviously, we want to keep her inside as long as possible. This happened because she fell. Jake asked, already knowing the answer. The trauma from the fall absolutely could have caused this, Dr. Martinez confirmed. Any impact to the abdomen during pregnancy is extremely dangerous, especially in the 3rd trimester. Marcus showed up at the hospital around 7 that evening. He knocked softly before entering Emma's room. How is she? He asked quietly. Stable for now, Jake said. They're monitoring for any changes. Marcus nodded. The police came. I gave them my complete statement, and Mr. Chen gave them his. They also have the doorbell camera footage, showing everything. He paused. They arrested Karen Patterson. Good, Jake said, feeling grim satisfaction. There's more, Marcus continued. While I was waiting for the police, 3 other neighbors came forward. Apparently, Karen has a long history of harassment and aggressive behavior. One neighbor said she shoved him during an argument about a fence 2 years ago. Another said she threatened to poison their dog because it barked too much. They all gave official statements. Why didn't anyone report her before? Jake asked. Fear, mostly, Marcus explained. She had a way of making life absolutely miserable for anyone who crossed her. Constant violations, fines, making up rules, and taking people to court over petty things. People were terrified of her. But not anymore, Jake said. Not after what she did to Emma, Marcus confirmed. The neighborhood is ready to testify against her. And I made some calls. I have a friend who's a lawyer specializing in personal injury and assault cases. He wants to represent you guys pro bono. That night was the longest of Jake's entire life. Emma slept fitfully, waking every hour in pain or fear. Jake never left her side. Around 3 in the morning, Emma woke up crying. What if I lose her, Jake? She whispered. What if I lose our baby because of that horrible woman? You won't, Jake said, though fear gripped his own heart. You won't lose her. Emma looked at him with tear-filled eyes. I hate her, Jake. I hate Karen Patterson. I hate that she did this to us. I hate that she doesn't even care. I know, Jake said softly. But we're going to make sure she faces real consequences for what she did over the next several days. The investigation into Karen Patterson revealed something absolutely shocking. The lawyer, David Chunmeister, Chun's nephew, discovered that Karen had been operating completely outside her legal authority for years. Most of the fines and violations she'd issued weren't actually in the HOA bylaws at all. She'd been making up rules as she went along. Even more devastating, over the past 5 years, Karen had collected over $200,000 in violation fines from the neighborhood. According to the HOA bylaws, this money was supposed to go into a community fund for neighborhood improvements, but almost none of it had been used for those purposes. Instead, Karen had been paying herself an unauthorized administrative salary and had even used HOA funds to renovate her own house. She'd been embezzling money for years. This changes everything, David told Jake and Emma. We're not just dealing with assault charges anymore. We're dealing with fraud, embezzlement, and abuse of authority. The district attorney is very interested in prosecuting this case to the fullest extent. How much time could she face? Jake asked. For the assault alone, given the circumstances and the harm caused, she could face 5 to 10 years, David explained. Add in the embezzlement and fraud charges, and we're looking at potentially 15 to 20 years in prison. Emma, lying on the hospital bed with her hand protectively on her belly, smiled for the first time in days. Good, she said simply. After 8 days in the hospital, Emma was finally allowed to go home. The bleeding had completely stopped, and Lily's heartbeat was strong and steady. Dr. Martinez was cautiously optimistic that they would both be okay, but Emma had to remain on strict bed rest for the remainder of her pregnancy. Marcus, who had extended his military leave to help them, made sure Emma had everything she needed. Neighbors brought meals and offered constant support. Mr. and Mrs. Chen came by every single day to check on them. During this time, the full extent of Karen's corruption became crystal clear. She had terrorized the entire neighborhood for years, and now everyone was finally speaking up. One by one, residents shared their stories of harassment, threats, and abuse of power that had gone on for far too long. The neighborhood voted unanimously to remove Karen permanently from her position as HOA president and to conduct a full audit of all violations and fines. Despite all the trauma and stress, Emma made it to 36 weeks before going into labor. Baby Lily Rose Morrison was born healthy and beautiful 6 pounds, 2 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and her mother's striking blue eyes. Holding his daughter for the first time, Jake felt overwhelming gratitude that she was okay. But he also felt burning rage at the woman who had nearly taken her from them. Karen Patterson's trial began when Lily was 2 months old. It lasted 3 intense weeks. Emma testified about what happened that terrible day, and Jake watched the jury's faces as she described how Karen had grabbed her and pulled her, how she had fallen, how terrified she'd been that she was losing their baby. The doorbell camera footage was played for the jury, and audible gasps filled the courtroom as people watched Karen grab Emma and yank her forward with brutal force. After just 4 hours of deliberation, the jury came back with its verdict: guilty on all counts. Karen showed emotion for the first time during the entire trial. She broke down crying, insisting she'd done nothing wrong, that everyone was against her, that this was all completely unfair. The judge was unmoved. Karen Patterson, you abused your position of authority in your community for years, Judge Rebecca Thompson said during sentencing. You harassed your neighbors, you stole from them, and ultimately, you assaulted a pregnant woman and endangered her unborn child. You have shown absolutely no remorse for your actions. For the assault charges, I sentence you to 10 years in state prison. For the embezzlement and fraud charges, I sentence you to an additional 8 years to be served consecutively. That's a total of 18 years. Karen's face went deathly white. Her attorney said they would appeal, but Judge Thompson shook her head firmly. The evidence against your client was overwhelming, and the verdict was just. Karen Patterson, you will be remanded to custody immediately to begin serving your sentence. As the bailiffs led Karen away in handcuffs, she looked at Emma and Jake with pure hatred burning in her eyes. This is your fault, she hissed venomously. All of this is your fault. Emma, holding baby Lily in her arms, looked Karen straight in the eye and said calmly, No, this is your fault. You did this to yourself, and that was the last time they ever saw Karen Patterson. Today, exactly 1 year after Karen assaulted Emma, life in Riverside Gardens has changed dramatically for the better. The HOA has new leadership that actually serves the community. All illegitimate fines were refunded to residents. The embezzled money was recovered and used for real improvements: a new playground, better street lighting, and a beautiful community garden. Jake and Emma received a $450,000 settlement in their civil lawsuit. They used it to pay off their mortgage and put the rest into a college fund for Lily. But more important than the money was the sense of justice and closure they finally felt. Lily is now 1 year old, healthy, happy, with the biggest smile and the loudest laugh. Emma has recovered fully, both physically and emotionally. They still live in the same house, but now it actually feels like a real community, where neighbors have become genuine friends. Last month, the new HOA board organized a neighborhood block party with food, music, and games for the kids. There was a real sense of community that had been missing for so long under Karen's reign of terror. As Jake held Lily and watched Emma laugh with their neighbors, he thought about how close they'd come to losing everything. Karen Patterson had thought her position and her power made her untouchable. She'd thought she could hurt people without consequences. She was wrong, and now she's spending the next 18 years in prison. Thinking about the pregnant woman she attacked and the Navy SEAL brother who made sure justice was served. Merry Christmas to all our viewers. Remember, protect your family, stand up for what's right,